everybody. Welcome to Pockets Full of Soup, the storytelling show. I'm your host, Jared Petty. I am proudly joined today by Paul.
Hey.
What's up, Paul?
Very well. How are you, Jared?
I'm fine. What's your second name, Paul?
Joyce.
That's right. And Paul Joyce is here because he's one of our very generous and special patrons who decided to give a fantastic amount to the show. And now he's here as a guest. Thank you, Paul, for what you did.
I can't believe it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, he's helped keep us on the air. A lot of wonderful people give to us on Patreon. Of course, our Patreon producers, Nick Rea and Robert Nieder, who give generously every month. So many of you in so many ways that give whatever you can. And you allow me to keep doing a dream, and it's wonderful. Paul, you gave an especially a generous sum, and now you're here in the San Francisco Bay Area with your girlfriend, right?
I am indeed.
What are you doing here in America?
Oh, that's a very good question. So we're here for 8 weeks. I am about to start a new job back in the UK.
Oh,
very exciting.
Do you build robots?
I wish.
Do you work on a submarine?
Almost.
Almost? Oh, expound.
I work near the Thames.
You work near the Thames. Okay, well, there we go. So that's kind of like working on a submarine.
Of sorts. I mean, it's above water and it doesn't ever submerge, but apart from that, it's exactly the same.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, very Marco Ramius of you.
Yeah, I have a very dull job. I'm an accountant.
Oh, accounting is important.
It may be, but it doesn't make it any more exciting.
Do you regard accounting as dull?
Most of the time.
Yeah. Why did you choose accounting?
Because I'm relatively good at it.
Okay. That's for a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it enables me to come and enjoy 8 weeks in this fine country of yours.
I think you had the better idea because you say it's kind of dull. You may not enjoy it as much, but you're very good at it. I chose podcasting, which I enjoy very much, but I'm not particularly great at. And I think probably you made the better decision.
I think you massively underestimate your skill at podcasting, Jared. I think you're a fantastic podcaster.
He says that as literally, I'm looking around and going, wow, I hope that the microphone cord doesn't fall out in the middle of the episode because I forgot to plug it in right. So we'll definitely hope for the best of that. You're very kind. So, Paul, you're an accountant by vocation, and you live in London.
I do.
All right, and you're here in the... Is this your first time in the States?
It isn't. My girlfriend and I have been here a few times. Certainly, it's the longest we've ever been in one stint, which is great. We've enjoyed California a lot. We've ventured out to a few other places. We went to New Orleans, went to Chicago. We're in town now for Kind of Funny Live 3.
New Orleans, how was that?
Oh, that was excellent. Yeah, it was really good. I'm alarmed at the amount they can eat and drink there.
New Orleans?
Yeah. In a good way, but the cocktails are fantastic. The food's amazing. If I lived there, I'd be about 20 stone heavier than I am.
Well, that's what happened to me. Okay, so 2 questions, right? First, I went to New Orleans, and I was thinner than you. I came back a week later looking like this. I mean, they just never fell off. There's some truth to that, by the way. My giant, lifelong weight gain did, in fact, begin in a week in New Orleans.
Yeah, I can see how it would start you on a very pleasurable but probably less healthy route.
It's the best food I've ever had.
It's phenomenal.
I don't know if your experience was quite the same, but
it was fantastic. I mean, we ate and drank wonderfully. I had a great time, but I needed to come back and detox a little bit.
What did you think of the hurricane there in New Orleans? You try it out?
We saw a miniature. We had a storm. We came out for breakfast one morning. It was glorious sunshine. Came out in shorts and a t-shirt. Went and had breakfast. I looked outside the window, and suddenly it looked as though the world was ending.
Yeah, that's life on the Gulf.
I was amazed at how quickly it came down, and suddenly you got cars sort of wading through, feet worth of water. It was frightening. You suddenly think, crikey, actually, you can see how this happens.
That's what happens when you build a city under the water line. Now that is kind of like being on a submarine. When I said hurricane, I actually meant the cocktail.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I was
big giant glass full of orange stuff.
I did not try one of those. I'm more of an old fashioned kind of so short and whiskey.
The Moriarty special.
Indeed.
Yeah. Colin always knows where to get the best old fashioned. They're really good. Yeah. It's I like an old fashioned very much. I am a classical martini guy myself.
Nice.
For several, it comes in a fancy glass.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
Very much. I think that good gin is just about the tastiest of spirits that there is, if you can find a good gin.
Yeah.
And a nice dry martini made with a good gin and a good vermouth and just a tad dirty.
Oh, yeah.
Stirred. I prefer mine stirred, not shaken, because it's a little stronger.
Yeah. Yep.
And and a fancy glass. It's like, hey. The problem is that martinis vary wildly in quality based on the mix.
Yeah, agreed.
I think a lot of times people over-articulate how important a good or badly mixed cocktail is and what a difference that makes. A lot of times it's like, oh, this is good, this is good. But I think martinis, you got to get it right.
Yeah, agreed. Especially when you've got so few ingredients, those ingredients need to be good and put together just right. You're not diluting it with anything. You're pretty much taking 100% sort of.
What's the best old fashioned you've had?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. We've been to a couple of really great cocktail bars here in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a great cocktail bar at Chiltern Firehouse in London that I love. They make a great old fashioned. The problem is I could sit there and drink them all afternoon, and that normally ends in a very bad Sunday morning.
Yes, that's like going drinking with Marty.
Really?
That. Yeah, yeah. Don't go drinking with Marty. I mean, it's so much fun. You'll never have such a great time because he's one of the best conversational companions alive.
Yeah.
But afterwards, you forget how to walk.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's something you need to like a marathon. You need to train for that sort of big event.
You do. You got to build up to it.
I'm well out of training.
The problem is that he's kind of the Usain Bolt of Sunday afternoon drinking.
Yeah,
so
okay.
You're not really going to keep up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's just going to leave you in his wake.
I love besmirching my friends in front of thousands. So
I think that was quite complimentary.
So you're here in town for KFL 3.
I certainly am.
By the time people see this, KFL 3 will have already taken place. What secrets will have been revealed? What fantastic things will have happened? What special guests might have appeared from the ether? Who knows? So, Paul, you are here in town having a wonderful time, and you're here with somebody special.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I generally get around to asking at some point. I used to say that this is the question I always start with, but really I bug people with all kinds of weird minutiae beforehand. So let's get to that main question, that linchpin of Bakken's Full of Soup. Tell me about somebody you're thankful for.
I think I'm pretty lucky that there's a whole bunch of people that have been so supportive of me, particularly over the last few years, and we'll come on to that. My family have been massively supportive, and I'm very lucky to have some very, very good friends. But the person who I'm undoubtedly most grateful for is my girlfriend Dylan, who I'm here traveling with.
So you're traveling here with Dylan?
Dylan.
I've never met a Dylan before.
No, it's it's a Sri Lankan name.
Okay.
And
was she born in Sri Lanka?
She was born in Sri Lanka, but she spent quite a bit of time around all sorts of parts of the world. Lived in Nigeria, went to school there, then went to school in the UK, went to university in the UK, and then I met her in my first job. How did her,
before we move to why you're thankful for her, I'm fascinated to learn how this young lady from Sri Lanka ends up in Nigeria and then in the UK, and how did that journey take place?
Yeah, so her dad was quite senior in the Sri Lankan sort of government and the military, and he spent time in various different parts of the world.
A bureaucrat, then, okay, or a diplomat.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite. And he spent time in all these different places, and she went there, and then her mum went to university in London and moved to London, and her dad moved to Toronto, and she moved to the UK to go to school.
To go to school there. Where did she attend?
I don't know which school she went to. She went to Cambridge University.
Okay.
Which is obviously a pretty good university in the UK.
It's all right.
Quite reasonable. Yeah.
You do all right at Cambridge. You know?
She's definitely the. Well, I was going to say the brains. She's the brains and the beauty of this operation.
It's no University of Alabama, but it's all right.
She's she's a very clever girl.
All right, so let's. So Dylan, and you met her where?
So I met her at my first job at PwC, which is where I qualified as an accountant. Yeah, PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Okay.
So came out of university.
Did you work with Don Draper?
Oh, I wish.
That sounds like the kind of place Don Draper would work.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, Dylan and I, the other day, and our boss had his office, which was, quite a relatively modern office, open plan, with a few offices for the partners, and he had this glorious hardwood desk, like a dining table in his office. I mean, it barely fit, but it was you felt a little bit like you were stepping back into an episode of Mad Men when you went in there and sat in a sort of a very nice looking chair.
I'm all for everything. You know, I love open spaces and workplaces. I love working in a bullpen when I've had the opportunity to do that. IGN was set up that way, just kind of a big open bullpen. You were working right next to the general manager of the company, but there is a part of me that wants to have my own office with a big, cool wooden desk so bad, like the Resolute desk just laid out there in front of me. I realize it's probably terribly selfish, but it comes from my time as a pastor. I had to study in any church, generally speaking. A pastor has a study. You'd have this small, quiet room with a little desk, and man, just the difference having the ability to close a door and think makes. But nonetheless, pretty. Do you have an awesome desk?
Well, I'm between jobs at the moment, so I actually don't have a desk at all.
Did you demand a better desk at your new job?
We live in a world now where everyone hot desks, which means that you don't even get to put a sort of photo of a loved one on.
A hot desk sounds like a terrible snack food.
Yeah, I was about to say it sounds like somewhere very uncomfortable that you'd only want to sit for a very limited amount of time.
So is hot desking? Just you swap in your office constantly?
Yeah, basically you don't have an assigned desk. You turn up and you play a game of musical chairs every morning.
What is the productivity argument for a hot desk?
So I think the argument is that particularly in somewhere like London, where office space is expensive. If you have, say, 100 people in an office at one time, there's only going to be 50 or 60 of them actually in the office. There'll be people off ill, people on holiday, people out to the office doing stuff. So you don't need as many seats as you do people.
That's fascinating.
So it is a bit like musical chairs in that you come in and there aren't enough chairs for everybody. So first come, first serve.
Do you bring adornments with you?
Certainly in my previous job, the one I've just left, it became a bit of possession was 9/10 of the law. It was hot desking, but if you put enough rubbish around the place you usually sat, it warded people off from sitting there.
Oh, that's kind of wonderful.
Yeah, it's like a social experiment.
Do you just hang like a dead albatross, like on the side, just scare people off?
Yeah, exactly. So that and people come around and you'd have. If you weren't in the office, for example, maybe you're at a meeting or something, you'd have other people, obviously, who also sat in the desk around you all the time. You get them to glower at, new people coming in to sort of warn them off.
Great. Yeah, I'm really thinking that what you need is like a Mad Max style warning system. Just poles with heads on them all around.
I like that idea. Or like I was thinking of, you see people. Or who use inflatable people to get into carpool lanes. You maybe just have like an inflatable person just sat in my desk, guarding it.
Where's that? Where did I see that? It's one of those cases where I can't even remember if it was real life or the internet anymore. Which I think as I'm getting older, my brain dies. I'm starting to lose touch with reality.
The two start to conflate.
Exactly, which explains a lot about what's happening in the world right now. But picture of a guy, and next to him is just this enormous Shaquille O'Neal cutout, flat.
Brilliant.
It's not even inflatable. He's just sitting in his passenger seat.
Love it.
And a cop laughing. I think this was a photograph. Just the cop just looking and not able to hold it together because it's. And the best part was Shaq had his seatbelt on. So
well,
it was
that's
a flat
good.
Cardboard cutout with a seatbelt.
I mean, at least he's adhering to road safety regulations.
Why a giant Shaq? That's so great.
I love the idea of being caught on like a speed camera or something, and somebody sort of looking through and seeing Shaquille O'Neal sitting in the passenger seat.
I committed a traffic violation in Japan where I was speeding, and I was driving too fast. And a traffic camera took a picture of me, and that traffic camera snap that I got while driving there caught a picture of me in the empty seat next to me. I was told by my friends that those are mailed with your specific name on them, because if you happen to be traveling with the person you're having an affair with at the moment, they want to make sure your spouse doesn't open it. So they're very careful to send it in such a way that it's indicated that nobody else but you was supposed to open the envelope. I thought that was fascinating.
It's sort of wonderfully polite almost.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, we assume you're having an affair right now.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want that indiscretion to get out. So
We'll keep this very private. We know you've
Exactly.
committed an offence and you've broken the law, but we're still going to retain your privacy.
yeah, it was odd. There was this kind of odd. It was just a different cultural perspective.
Yeah.
This idea that, and this is speaking in very general terms, that the affair isn't the problem. Getting caught is. Like a considerate person, of course you have affairs.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're considerate, you never let the other person find out.
Oh,
that
I see.
shows that
Okay.
you actually care about them. It's a different way of looking at things.
It's like somebody said to me that they weren't afraid of heights and they weren't afraid of falling. It was hitting the ground that they were afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
It's that sudden, sharp impact. Back to PwC,
Sorry, yes.
where you met. This is my fault, not yours.
No,
Don't worry.
no.
We do
I
a
like
lot
this,
of tangents.
yeah, tangents are good.
Tangents are fun for stories. So back to PwC.
Yep.
Also, it's not Pockets Full of Soup if I don't talk about Japan.
Indeed.
Back to PwC. So you meet Dylan there.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that happen? Do you remember the first time that you spoke with Dylan?
Yeah, so so actually it was it's an interesting one. So she'd been there for a couple of years already. So she's more senior than I was.
Okay.
I joined as a new graduate. I'd been traveling for a year after university because I couldn't find a job and didn't want to enter the real world.
Oh, that's always a good decision.
Yeah.
Don't enter the real world.
I was about to say it was the best decision I ever made. I mean, it was you're trapped in the real world for a long time. It's nice to stay out of it for a little while.
Yeah.
I joined, and I'm this sort of, I think she would describe me as this sort of young, slightly noisy new graduate who's way too confident for his own good, and I was just very excited to be working in London, and I didn't actually work very much with her. I was in and out of college doing my exams, but she sort of saw me from afar and thought that I was a bit of an idiot, which was a very astute observation.
Why did she think you were an idiot?
Because I was.
Really?
I think I was. It's weird. You're sort of young and fresh-faced and enthusiastic, and I hadn't quite sort of understood how a sort of workplace works and how one should behave, and I was just sort of asking questions left, right, and centre, and sort of generally coming across as confident, which I wasn't. It was just all a facade.
A little bit of bluster there.
Yeah,
Huh?
exactly.
She saw through it.
A lot of bluster. Yeah.
So how did she move from idiot to girlfriend?
So yeah,
Or she think how did she move from thinking you're an idiot to being in a relationship with you?
A very, very good question. So we went out one evening after work.
Why did she go out with the idiot?
Yeah, there was a group of it. There was,
okay.
I had safety in numbers.
Yeah.
I sort of tagged along to the cool group that she was hanging with.
Okay, so you went out with the cool kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of I was a hanger on.
Right.
And I think I tried to get up some sort of Dutch courage.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that phrase.
Oh, Dutch courage. Okay, so I drank a lot of alcohol.
Okay, all right.
So that's So I think I probably was drinking about 3 times as quickly as everyone else to try to gather up some confidence to speak to her, because as I say, all this confidence that had been coming across in the office was all bravado.
Okay.
She was, and actually I can't for the life of me on reflection work out why we were sitting in a pub and she was doing a crossword, but she was doing a cryptic crossword.
Oh.
And I thought what I would do was impress her by assisting her with the cryptic crossword. Unfortunately, my skill at cryptic crosswords is not great when I'm sober. When I'm drunk, I think my vocabulary was limited to single syllable words and such like. So my attempts to help her with the crossword were woeful, and I think maybe that was either endearing or somehow that helped.
So you won her over with your pathos.
Something like that.
That's delightful. Okay, so I'm going to help you with a crossword puzzle drunk.
Yeah.
That's
And then I stared at it, unable to.
Always a great way to impress the ladies.
So then you'll like this even more, Jared. Then as we went to go from that pub to the next pub, she had her book with her, I offered to carry her book.
Oh,
Yeah.
because she couldn't be burdened by it.
No, quite. I
What
mean,
was the book?
I have no idea now,
Okay,
but I think it was a weighty tome. I like to imagine that
Did she allow you to carry her book?
She did. I mean, I think she was still at this stage a little bemused by it, but I think my my drunkenness and my my sort of, I'm going to tongue in cheek call it chivalry, started to perhaps persuade her that I was less of an idiot than she'd initially perhaps thought.
I have this image of her walking ahead of you and you walking down a London street, half stumbling with a big book in your arms, going, "Senpai noticed me."
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of...
That is pretty much exactly what it looks like. Dylan is very small, very slender type. I, at this stage particularly, was 6'3".
Yeah, you're a tall dude.
And I probably weighed about 2 stone more than I do now. So I was a big guy, and she was tiny, and I was carrying a book. I mean,
just there side by side on the street. We just sketch you guys.
She's
out
beautiful.
Together.
I'm
oh, whatever. You're
straight.
very pretty.
Nah, you're too kind.
By the way, this is the second time you said stone. And I, as an American,
sorry.
I'm familiar with the phrase, but I've never, ever been in the right moment to ask, what's stone?
Okay. Oh, God, now I'm going to have to start. So, I don't even know if pounds are the same, but there's 14 pounds in a stone.
Okay. All right, so 14 pounds in a stone.
And there's, I think, 2.2 pounds in a kilogram.
Yeah. So pounds are the same for you and I. Okay,
yeah,
good.
quite. Yeah.
All
So
right.
we're it's when I start talking at centigrade that we'll lose each other again.
No, I lived in Japan long enough to know centigrade. So
well, that's
there.
okay.
Yeah, I can do centigrade. Yep. No, let's Kelvin it up.
Oh yeah,
Weights and measures. It's fun.
Why have we not moved on to Kelvin? Just see. Why don't we just get rid of these cross purposes?
Why do we have miles and stones and pounds and ounces? And I mean, 16 ounces to a pound, 14 pounds to a stone, 5,280 feet to a mile. It makes perfect sense.
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does. Man. All right. Let's go back to Senpai.
Quite.
All right. So she's noticed you.
Yeah.
She's reached the place where she tolerates you.
Yeah.
And now we're living in a world where you're in love with her and she's in love with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Years later.
Yeah.
How long ago was
14 years.
14 years together.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I think I've had to keep her. I was going to say that the thing that tipped her over the edge is that she eventually got drunk enough that she didn't think I was quite so much of an idiot.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder whether I have to now keep her in that state of inebriation for 14 years until she wakes up and realizes that she's been with me for that time.
I have no idea what to do with that statement.
No.
So the two of you have been together. You've been together a long time, and obviously, the course of a relationship like that, you've been together about the same amount of time Angela and I have. A lot happens in that period of time to be thankful for. But But I definitely want to focus this on. I'm aware just from a little bit of conversation we had before starting the show that there's a particular kind of arc of thankfulness here, and I'd like to move toward that if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
That story,
of
why, for all the reasons you love this amazing woman, why you're so thankful to her today.
Okay. So this, and I'm going to apologize in advance. This is a slightly rambling story.
It's okay. All of mine are.
This element starts. They're the best stories are, I think. The story sort of starts about 4 years ago, where I started to get some discomfort in my arm and in my chest, and my blood pressure was quite high. I'd been working pretty hard, and I was starting to feel unwell, and I ended up with a series of sort of cardiac tests.
When did it all manifest at once, or did this kind of creep up on you over months?
It crept up over a period of time. So I probably in my early 20s, and I'd moved down to London and put on a bit of weight. We were talking before about the stress of work, and you end up eating less healthily than you should do, and you're not doing as much exercise as you should, and my blood pressure got quite high, and eventually after a period of sort of tests and things, I got some blood pressure medication. Then over sort of a period of time, I got more of these sort of symptoms that I started to get a little bit more worried about, more cardiac related symptoms, and so I went through for probably a good year or two a whole bunch of different tests to see if there was anything wrong.
What was Dylan saying this whole time?
So she was being super supportive, and she was obviously, and she deals with these things incredibly well. But she was like really sort of supportive and very reassuring, and was there to, whenever I went into the hospital to have a test. She'd always come along, and she was like, and as we'll get to, I'm a bit of a emotional wreck in these situations, and she's amazing at sort of keeping me sane.
Well, let's move forward toward that.
Yes.
Let me ask you that.
So so I have all these tests, and eventually the cardiologist sort of says, look, we don't think it's anything, but the best way to find out is to actually go in and have a proper look. Everything else had been non-invasive, so everything else was ultrasounds and CT scans and MRI scans. And
when you say go in and have a proper look at my heart?
Yes.
Oh,
so yeah,
that doesn't sound fun.
No, but it's meant to be relatively safe. So what that entails is, whilst you're awake, so with some local anaesthetic, I still have a tiny little scar just here.
Okay.
They cut open a little opening into your artery, and they shove a tube down there with a camera on the end, and it runs all the way up your arm and into your heart. And they call it an angiogram. Yeah, whilst you're lying there. So
you're awake.
Yeah, so I'm lying there.
They don't have the decency to hit you in the head with a brick or something before they do this?
I mean, to be fair to them, they give you, so you're awake. There's all the screens up when you can, and everything. You're lying there. There's people busting around. I mean, to be fair, they gave you some very relaxing medication.
Okay,
so I'm awake, but I'm like really, really chilled.
You're in my heart. Like, what happens if you just suddenly decide to stand up in that moment? Do you die?
I didn't test it.
That's a good plan. Okay, so you've got a long tube with a camera running into your heart.
Yep.
What do they find in there?
So we'd had this conversation before I got in there, and the cardiologist said, look, whatever, 95%. It's gonna be clear. We're gonna go in. It'll be half an hour operation. Come out fine. But if we find something, then we can move to putting in a stent, which is effectively, and I don't know much about how the technicalities work, but there is a tube, which they run with in the same tube with the balloon. They then inflate the balloon, which opens up the tube, which holds your heart artery open, and it just allows the blood flow to
clear
run
any
through.
Potential blockage.
Exactly.
Okay, sure.
He said, look, we can either take you out and then put you in another day and do that, or we can just go straight and do it there. And I said, we both said, well, I said, we should just go straight in and just do it. There's no point in kind of getting me back round and then going and doing it a second time. Once you're in there, you might as well go and do it. So the first I realised that there's a problem is after what for me was an indeterminate amount of time, but I think about half an hour of being in there, the cardiologist comes over and says, we found a blockage. We want to put a stent in.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like,
is Dylan in there with you?
No. So she's back in the waiting room, and then to me, you're under this sort of medication, and the time sort of passes at a very indeterminate rate. But apparently, what then happens is cardiologist goes in. The blockage is a lot worse than they expect. 2 or 3 more cardiologists come down. I'm oblivious to all this. To consult.
But things are accelerating.
Yeah, and getting worse. Dylan's sitting outside, and they've told her that I'll be out in half an hour, and 4 hours later, I
Is
re-emerge.
anyone telling her what's happening?
No, she's kind of completely. Obviously, half an hour goes by, and I'm not there, but half an hour goes by, and she's expecting me to come out. Then another half an hour, heard nothing, and she starts to get concerned. Suddenly, I reappear. I'm oblivious to everything, and the cardiologist is explaining that they put 2 stents in because my arteries have become pretty blocked. And And the reality is they weren't really sure why.
Yeah.
Other than it was some, probably a combination of genetics and lifestyle and all this sort of stuff.
Okay. So this happens. She's scared.
Yeah.
You're too stoned to be scared at this point.
Yeah.
What happens when you come back up?
So I come round and it's a very strange sensation. So I'm not sure whether to be pleased or frightened at this stage. I'm pleased that obviously they've caught it and I've got through that. But Dylan is incredibly, as I say, supportive and like a rock. I mean, she was, if I'm concerned and worried and frightened, she's supportive and reassuring. And
how does she do that best for you?
She's got an incredibly calm manner to her, an incredibly calm manner. And this story sort of follows on a little bit that kind of 12, 18 months later, I start to develop real anxiety around it. And it takes me a little while. And it's so
anxiety
around the health. Yeah. So after I think probably in the immediate aftermath of the surgery, I feel quite confident and reassured that the cardiologist tells me whatever happened, we've cleared it, everything's great. In fact, the day before the surgery, you're in a lot worse state than you are now.
I've turned the corner back to Wall Street.
Yeah, exactly.
Ready to go back to life.
Get back to work. I remember coming out of this surgery, a slight tangent, but being like, oh God, I haven't even told work I'm not going to be there. I need to get back into work in tomorrow or something.
What did Dylan say to that?
Dylan's like, I think you should probably just take some time to recover from this. I think, in a bit of denial. And
there were people inside your heart earlier today.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to get back. I've got a million emails I need to read. And so then, I think in the immediate aftermath, I don't know whether I was just in denial or whether it bred a kind of confidence. I then had I was exercising. This is probably 9-12 months later on a treadmill. I've got my heart rate monitor on. I'm keeping an eye on my heart rate. I'm on the treadmill. Heart rate's at a pretty standard level. Thought I'd push a little bit more. Heart rate starts to jump up. Oh, that looks a bit. That's gone up a bit more quickly than I expected. I'll bring my.
There, yeah.
I'll bring the speed down a little bit, and instead of the heart rate coming down, heart rate goes up.
Ooh.
And then it keeps going up, and it's 110, 120, 130, 140.
Weird?
And I'm really starting to feel lightheaded. I'm like, so I turn the thing off. Heart rate keep 150, 160, and I'm like, oh Jesus, what the hell's happening? I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have a heart attack. I'm frantic. And what I come to learn later is that I'm having a panic attack. So I see my heart rate go up. I worry about that. My body secretes adrenaline. Okay. That drives the heart rate higher. The higher it goes, the more I'm panicking, the more the fight or flight response kicks in. But at the time, I'm thinking, my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to have a heart attack.
Had you ever experienced a panic attack before?
Not with that sort of anything like that level of severity.
Were you aware that you were anxious beforehand about what was happening?
No. And this was a frightening thing. I look back now and I think I can see elements where I had elements of anxiety, but this panic attack is then the start of a 12-month battle, and what becomes an ongoing, lifelong battle with panic attacks and anxiety, which got to the point where I was no longer able to travel on public transport. I couldn't go into the office without having panic attack.
So it started to roll.
Yeah, it very quickly got out of control personally, and it was amazing how I went from being much more like the person you met today, a relatively outgoing, confident-sounding person, to being this sort of wreck of an individual who couldn't go and do anything normal. Couldn't spend time with friends, couldn't get on public transport, couldn't go to work.
I'm going to press the pause button for a second here.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dylan, at this point, you've been with for more than a decade.
Yep.
You are undergoing an unexpected, what must have felt like transformation.
Yeah.
Even though actually it sounds like, looking back, there was actually a lot there that you just didn't notice was happening,
Yep.
which is often the case of how this. It's amazing what we don't notice when we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, agreed.
Until we've stepped out. What was it like for Dylan to take the person that you're describing before this, the very busy, outgoing, and to see you began to manifest the symptoms of the stress that was going on in your life? What was it like for her being a part of that process?
I mean, it's the most amazing. Well, firstly, it must have been incredibly difficult. I mean, it was really difficult for me, to go through it, but to try to articulate what was happening. I mean, I was aware that I, in many ways, wasn't the same person that I was 2 years ago, or certainly I wasn't acting or responding in the way that I would expect me to respond to. I must have taken the train into work hundreds and hundreds of times. To say I'm not able to get on that train, I can't get into work. Even it being me, I found it difficult to comprehend. For her to be, to be seeing this and to be, and then we'll come on to this, how unbelievably supportive she was. I genuinely have no idea how she managed it, because I think for her it must have been frightening to see this. I mean, it was frightening enough for me to think, is this what it's going to be like? She'd signed up for this for 10 years, and then to suddenly see effectively a completely different person in front of her.
Now, you've used that phrase, different person. Do you feel like you were a different person, or do you feel like you were the person you were and you were just starting to realize some new things about where you were in life?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think when I had the calm reflection, I could see these elements, but it was always me. But even I couldn't comprehend how my reaction and view on life was so very different between those two different times. It's a little bit like 1 minute you can run 5 kilometers, and the next you can't even walk up a set of stairs, and you think, I don't understand, how yesterday I could do A, B, and C without even thinking about it, and today those same things, which I know are the same things, sound like as if I said to you should go and climb Everest tomorrow. They were the most frightening, scary things. Just to go to work seemed like the greatest obstacle that anyone could ever overcome. It was incredibly scary.
Did you feel divorced from yourself?
Yeah. Well, in some ways I felt incredibly attuned to myself. I became very aware of everything, every sensation, I began second guessing every thought process. I became, I would think about my breathing all the time, and my, was my heart racing, or what was my pulse now? Am I okay? But at the same time, felt very out of control of all those things, as if I was like a passenger on this frightening roller coaster, which I just wanted. All I wanted to do was get off, but I just couldn't.
Sorry, this is kind of familiar.
Yeah. And hearing, when I hear other people talk about it, I find it. You obviously know Colin, Mr. Moriarty, and I was amazed at when he articulated what he'd been through. It made such a difference to me
in terms of anxiety.
Yeah. To appreciate that actually this wasn't some crazy thing that I was going through, but that actually the more people I found out, the more people I spoke to about it, the more I found other people had been through the similar sort of thing, and it gave me a strange reassurance that I wasn't I mean, I genuinely thought I was going mad. I thought, well, this is the end of my life as I know it. I'm not gonna live a normal life again, and that was frightening.
You've talked, it's hard to describe anxiety coming into your life. Right? You're doing a much better job of it, I think, than I ever have.
Oh God, no!
Callie was on recently talking about something similar. Colin's talked about it. it's become a big part of my life too. I want to ask you. You've talked several times about Dillam's support, amazing support in this. What form did that take?
So, and I'm going to say, when I say this stuff out loud, it sounds bonkers. And I can't even almost relate to it myself. But so there was a period where I couldn't go to work. I couldn't get on. It gradually migrated from I couldn't take the train to work, so I started taking Ubers into work, and then I just couldn't even cope with being in the office. But I couldn't also cope with being at home on my own, because the panic would take over. If I was on, I had this, and I say it now, and it sounds massively irrational, that I would be at home on my own, and I'd have a heart attack and keel over, and no one would find me until much later. So I felt I had to be in public places, but then at the same time, I couldn't be in public places either. So I started to go in. Dylan would go into work, and I'd go into work with her, and I would sit in a coffee shop near her office all day, and she would come down and check on me, and I would sit and read books and listen to podcasts, and that's especially the kind of Funny Guys got me through that period of I just would back to back every episode of Beyond, every episode of Game Over Great. Just like I need things to distract me from life. And
that distraction was through those people.
Yeah, and I said to them, how important that was, and I don't think they can ever, and you guys can never realize that importance. But she was there, kind of, effectively looking after this, child almost. Take me into work, and then she wouldn't be able to go out with her friends because I wouldn't want her to leave.
Yourself. You weren't a child. You were suffering from anxiety. But I understand the patience like that, of a human being looking at someone they love and trying to love them the best they can. That would be. Angie has to deal with some of this with me. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah, I know. I genuinely, I'm the perseverance and and as I say, the wonderful calmness that she brings. I mean, I'm quite an excitable person anyway, and I think that kind of partly leads into some of the anxiety stuff. But she's always there and she would always, however bad I was and however much I was panicked, she would always just say, "It's going to be okay. I'm here. Don't worry."
So you stepped away from your vocation for a while.
Yep.
And you were afraid to be alone.
Yep.
So you were near her. She would come. She would check on you.
Yep.
I imagine it was very difficult for you to need that help and accept it at the same time. To accept that degree of grace from someone or kindness is hard when you feel like it's your fault, even though it's not your fault.
And I was imagine. She does she's got a busy job, and she had enough, as I would know when I was working, she had enough demands on her time anyway, without having to constantly come and reassure me, which I, particularly at the time when I didn't really understand it as well as I can look back on now with a sort of degree of distance. But I didn't really even understand why I needed all this support and why my reactions were like this. But at the time, I genuinely didn't know how I was going to get through the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
It was that kind of every day seemed like it was a frightening, was I going to have another panic attack? Was something horrible going to happen? Was I going to feel any better? I didn't feel any better. What, and the demand I had from her in terms of support was massive. So, and she gave it unequivocally.
How long did this go on?
So it was probably a 2-year period. Wow. From when I first had that panic attack to it getting worse over the next 12 months, to the point then I wasn't working, to then having 6-8 weeks off from work, then a lot of CBT and kind of meditation and stuff like cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff to try to give me the tools to be able to manage it through.
So
then
you were able to seek out professional help.
Yeah. Which look, made a massive difference for me. If just because it gave me a whole bunch of tools to help combat it. It wasn't. It was, there was never a case of just do this and everything will be fine. It was a very slow road. And I certainly remember looking back, one of my biggest concerns was I didn't know whether it was ever going to go back, if that makes sense, whether I was ever going to sort of overcome it. And one of the greatest skills and strengths I have now is that confidence that even if it gets bad again, I know that that I have the tools or can go and get the tools to be able to bring myself back around. And I think just having that knowledge, having that confidence that it will get better is so important. And you have to keep telling yourself that, because that's one of the things that drove me on to get better.
When you say the tools, that's a phrase that we use a lot in process for people that have never been through behavioral therapy. Can you just very concisely describe what tools are?
Yeah, of course. So I had a few different things. One of them was knowledge of what was actually happening physiologically. So that became quite important. So just learning and understanding that when I had a panic attack, the reasons were, the hormonal changes that were going on and the physiological changes that would lead to things like lightheadedness or feelings of shortness of breath, having that kind of medical understanding. The second one then was probably slightly more what we call in the UK a lot mindfulness and meditative techniques.
We use those in the States too, the same terms.
And those are sort of miniature processes that you can go through, almost like little guidelines, little actions, little 5-point plans. So you sit down, find somewhere quiet, take 2 or 3 very slow deep breaths.
And it sounds so easy if you've never been there.
Yeah, agreed.
But the thing I think a lot of people don't understand about mental illness is it's physical. And when you're having a panic attack, your body you feel like you're having a heart attack.
Yeah, completely.
You feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
And it's not that your head thinks you feel like you're dying. Your body is acting like you're dying.
Yeah.
Your heart is racing, your body's shaking. And the ability to sit and go, my feet are on the ground.
Yeah.
There are noises happening around me.
Yeah.
There are other people. I'm sitting in an office. I'm here. And this is the amazing power that has, because you lose touch with that when you think you're dying. Think about the feeling you might have, you got hit in the face with a baseball bat. You're not thinking about where you are or what's going on around you. You're thinking about, I got hit in the face with a baseball bat.
Yeah, agreed.
The ability to bring yourself back to where you are in that situation helps you take the next step to getting better.
Yeah,
and I
completely.
think that's what mindfulness is like. But
it's something that you getting that, it's not control, but having that presence of mind and understanding is something that you have to train your body to do. It's a bit like if I said go out and run a marathon tomorrow, it would be virtually impossible. You have to build those muscles. You have to build that stamina, and so you have to, the mindfulness, the meditative techniques, you have to do those all the time, on a daily basis, to give you the stamina and the skills to be able to then apply it when the panic sets in. Otherwise, you don't have that muscle memory, as it were, to put them into practice.
You articulate that very powerfully. That's well. And Dylan was with you in this. And were you ever? I don't want to be. I mean, fear is a constant part of that. For me,
Yeah.
Fear and shame are things that tend to come with it. Were you ever afraid she was going to leave?
So I said to her, I know, because I completely understood that I wasn't acting or behaving in the way that I had done previously, and I didn't think I was the same person that I was that she had started dating. And I said, look, I said to her, I wouldn't blame you at all if you wanted to have some time apart, if because frankly I could barely stomach being with myself, let alone I was like, this must be awful for her. She's got a million things she needs to be worrying about. The last thing she needs is this other thing, and she didn't even miss a beat. She said, here for me and here with me through whatever and whenever I needed her. And to be honest, it was that unconditional support that, and at the time, I was sitting there thinking, God, why on earth would she do that? But it was that unconditional support that meant a hell of a lot. And funnily enough, her and there was a couple of people at my work who had the same approach, and without that, it's very easy, I think, for people to say, and quite normal people say, well, I don't really understand that, so I'm going to try to sort of manage it in a way I might manage something completely unrelated, like you're turning up late for work, or you're a disciplinary problem. It's like, I think you just need to get over it, and it's like I wish I could, kind of thing. It was
I would like nothing better in the world than to be here right now at work not feeling this way.
And the people that got me through it, Dylan being the primary one, but a couple of people particularly at the work who said, don't worry, do whatever you need, you have as much time and whatever to help, and whenever you're ready, we'll have another conversation, but don't feel any inclination to rush back. And that again, unconditional support gave me the sure footing I needed to be able to make those strides forward. Because without them, when you're in quicksand, the more you struggle, the faster you sink. And it was like that. You needed something stable to at least be able to ground you, so that you can then try to move forward. And frankly, that's what Dylan gave me. Every single day, however ridiculous it seemed, my demand, my needs at the time were around support, around not being able to be at home or on my own. It was I still can't really understand why or how it happened, and for somebody else, I can barely put myself. It was me who went through it, and I still think of that almost as being a different person, let alone for somebody else to try to comprehend. I can't even fathom it, frankly.
I can't either. I'm the grace that people extend in situations like that, and they don't always for everyone. I was very fortunate to have been surrounded by some pretty wonderful people the worst time in my life, and they saved me. I know a little bit of what you're talking about. I don't want to make it about me. It just popped into my head. But and it's so hard because you can't. I don't blame people who sometimes, we don't all get better or stay better. And I don't blame people who choose to go, this is not the way God, I don't know what I'm saying even. The fact that this person in this place made this choice for you in that moment is marvelous.
And as you say, it's, and I know for you, it'll be the same. It's so important to have those people, and the major reason I wanted to, there are two reasons I want to come on here. One was to spend some time with you because I've got a huge amount of admiration and respect for everything you've done, and the other was to be able to kind of put on record how grateful I was to and continue to be to Dylan, because I've got absolutely no doubt in my mind that without the support that she gave me, I wouldn't be sitting here now. And I don't mean that in some dramatic way that I would have, something horrible to happen. I would never have recovered in the way I did. I would never have been able to come on and do something like this had she not given me the support that she gave me. It was literally the difference between night and day, the difference between being able to lead the life that I wanted to lead and having, either whether it had taken me 2, 3, 5 times as long or never sort of got back to where I am now. It's incredible.
She helped you, and you also, with her encouragement, and the help of others, did go find help. More help, and things are better now.
And it's not
anxiety's not.
Exactly.
It's going to be a part of your life.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly. And it's something that I deal with, and it comes in waves now. But I now, whenever it does come back, I have the confidence that if it returns, when it returns, it's something I can get through. And having that, and just frankly having that confidence that I can get through it, I think is so important, because I remember that the first time it felt like I mean, literally, I think I thought I was going mad. I thought this was, I thought something had get clicked in my brain, and I was just no longer the same person anymore. And it's anybody going through it needs to know that it gets better. And it might never be, it might never go away, but it is, whenever it's at its worst, it will get better. I promise them that. It's and they should, and whether they want to speak to me, I'm always happy to speak to people who are going through these things, because I think it's so important to. I got to listen to people who'd been through it, and that just gave me the reassurance that I wasn't alone in all of it.
I think I can't wait to meet her tonight. She's coming, right?
She is.
KFL?
Yeah, she is.
I'll meet her tonight then.
Yeah.
Thank you for your story.
Oh, no, it's my... Thank you for having me, Jared. I genuinely...
Very articulately. I appreciate it. And a lot of this hit home today, so thanks.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here. And thank all of you for watching and listening, guys and gals. You keep us going. So, I'm glad you decided to be a part of this. I do, I do the spiel. Of course, I want you to subscribe, because it helps keep the show going. I'm glad when you join the Facebook group, because we get to chat and it helps. And obviously, everything you guys have given financially means a lot. But the stories like this need to be told, and I'm thankful that you were willing to come tell this one, and that you guys were willing to share yours and listen to them and make this world a little better place, a little bit more hope in it, maybe a tiny bit a little more sliver of that there. So thanks. So it's time for that hard left turn.
Oh, yep.
That comes in every show. Are you prepared for the lightning round, the quizzical symphony that is instant noodles?
I don't think anyone's prepared for it, Jared.
All right.
I'm ready to face it head on.
What is best sandwich?
Turkey meatball.
Turkey meatball.
Yeah.
Is that turkey with meatballs, or a meatball made of turkey?
Meatball made of turkey. I stopped eating red meat after my heart surgery, so I loved meatballs. So I now only have white meatballs.
Okay, and what makes a turkey meatball preferable to a beef meatball?
Well, I think, and just generally, and particularly from over pork and things like that, it's slightly less fatty, so it's slightly better for me.
Okay, better for you.
But
Tastes good?
Still pretty tasty.
Yeah, do you make your own?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? What's your recipe? What do you
get? You basically get a bunch of turkey mince, chop in some carrot, which you've just kind of lightly fried, so you just soften it up a little bit. I tend to put a few panko breadcrumbs in there as well, which I think makes it less healthy, but it's sort of yin and yang.
All right, and you still eat it on what's your roll?
What's
your bread?
I love a good kind of ciabatta roll.
Okay,
a little bit of crunchiness. Very good.
Sauce for your meatballs or not?
Yeah, a little bit of tomato. Sort of what I never understood what you guys call marinara sauce, but it's kind of a tomatoey sauce.
Yeah,
bit of garlic
similar.
in there.
Yeah. Well, tomato and garlic mixed together in some proportion pretty much make the world a better place.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
soak that bread in it.
It's the best song written in the last 100 years.
So I love a song called "Come Back to What You Know" by a band called Embrace.
I don't know it.
It's a pretty obscure band from Yorkshire in the UK in the mid '90s. They produced an album called "The Good Will Out," which is this quite melancholy, beautiful song. The lines "Come back to what you know, take everything real slow. I want to lose you, but I can't let you go."
It's a good lyric.
They're a little bit melancholy, but they're a great band with some really you should listen to their stuff.
What's Dylan's favorite song?
Oh, she's much more into R&B.
Okay.
So her and I have completely different tastes. I don't know what her favorite song is actually.
Okay. What you been jamming to lately?
Oh, she. We've been listening to a lot. We went to Coachella as part of our trip.
Oh, okay.
And I've suddenly she listened to, I think, when she was younger, but we listened to quite a lot of Radiohead. So she's been liking Karma Police and No Surprises, which again are quite melancholy but beautiful, kind of emotional and melodic songs.
So your homework is to find out what Dylan's favorite song is.
I will do that.
All right. What's your favorite flavor ice cream?
Cookies and cream.
Good plan. Good man.
Ideally, mix it with something dark chocolate. I think that's. There's a great. Went to a great ice cream place called McConnell's. It's based in Santa Barbara. They did unbelievable.
Never been to McConnell's.
Oh, yeah, I recommend it. It was really good.
What's the first word you think of when you hear the sound of your own voice?
Loud.
It's the most terrifying creature in the natural world.
A spider.
Very well done. Not a spider shark.
No.
Okay.
No, I saw Black Widow in the California Museum of Sciences.
Oh, okay.
This thing looks hideously
Looks
frightening.
deadly, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're not especially aggressive. I did have one land on my hand once.
Jesus.
I reached down to a lamp to turn it on, and when it built a web in the lamp and dropped down onto my hand, but it didn't bite me even then, even though I startled it. They don't actually like to bite all that much. Generally, they bite people that reach under. They tend to build webs underneath things, under bushes, under overhangs and houses.
Yeah.
I've heard under pumpkins at pumpkin patches, which is terrifying.
Jeez.
And they tend to bite when somebody just sticks their hand underneath.
Yeah, okay. And frightens them.
Yeah, they're not especially aggressive spiders, but they're terrifying looking.
It's the fact that they're quite relatively big-ish for spiders, but they're small but so deadly.
Yeah,
that's the bit that frightens me. You can't even see the thing coming. It's
no, they look otherworldly. And they tend to live in dark places, and so no, spiders not okay. Not okay with the spiders.
I'm not generally that worried about spiders per se, but ones that can sting you and kill you, I think.
Yeah. Do you know about the American brown recluse?
No.
Oh, that's so the Black Widow gets all the.
It's just going to stop me getting out and about now.
The brown recluse is a fairly innocuous-looking small brown spider that looks pretty much like hundreds of other varieties of harmless small brown spider.
Okay.
Unless you're looking at it very closely, you can't tell the difference. But it bites you with a necrotic toxin. And what that does is the initial bite won't appear to be all that much, generally speaking. And then the flesh around the bite over the course of days just rots off.
Nice.
And you just start to rot.
Lovely.
And if they can't stop the rot, you die. You rot to death. An infection gets in there and you die.
Jesus.
It's a necrotoxin, and it just kills all the flesh in the area and spreads out across. Yeah.
That's
fine.
Not good for someone with anxiety.
No, I probably shouldn't have told you about that.
I was about to say I'm now.
No, fortunately, again, though they're actually fairly common in the States, bites are very rare. They're not an especially aggressive spider again. So the Australian ones are the mean ones apparently.
Yeah. You gotta be. I think the Australian outback is full of things that want to kill you.
Yeah, that's a really just kind of a genetic no-fly zone.
Yeah,
just don't go there.
Yeah.
I mean, Australia sounds great, but everything wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Florida's that way in America. Everything in Florida wants to kill you.
Are we still talking about animals?
There's that. That's true. Recent history would suggest people as well. But no, there's just so many deadly things there because the ecosystem's so hostile. It's just full of venomous, vicious creatures.
Nasty predators.
Most of which made their way into my dorm room at one time or another when I lived there. Yeah.
So you can start your own sort of rare and exotic insect
Yeah,
farm.
just like, hello, scorpion. What are you doing here today?
Yeah.
Hello, rattlesnake. Why are you in my biology classroom? Hello, alligator. Why are you on the steps? It's just like,
right, this isn't the right place for you. This is the place of learning.
Yeah, this is a place of learning, and it's like you will learn. You will learn to stay out of my way.
Yeah, quite.
Human.
Yeah,
puny
human.
Okay, exactly. I got tickled.
I know the idea of like an alligator with like a little sort of gown and hat on. I'm here to graduate. For goddamn you.
They bark. They've learned to bark to attract dogs. They'll sit in the water and
that's cruel.
Bark so that a dog will come down to the water and then they'll eat them. You hear them barking sometimes. It's
weird.
Jesus. Yeah, you walk by a pond, just hear woof,
Oh,
Woof, it's an alligator. He was like, oh, that's not okay. Nothing saurian should be that smart. It's like a velociraptor. They're going to open doors one day.
yeah, exactly. That's when you know you've evolution has reached its ultimate end.
Evolution is your enemy.
Yeah, quite.
If you could travel through time, meet any one person, who would it be?
Oh, I'd love to. It's not one person, but I'd love to have gone back and heard the Beatles play.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And so where are you going to hear them? Are you going to go to like one of the big concerts where everybody's screaming so that you can say I was at Shea or I was at Candlestick? Or are you going to go to one of the smaller shows where they may not be as refined, but you're more likely to hear them? What are you going to do?
So I think either it would have to be right at the beginning at the Cavern Club in Liverpool, or right at the end when they played on the roof at Apple Court in London.
Incredible.
And to
The
be,
last live
when
performance.
when they came out and played a whole bunch of stuff live, I think that would have been incredible.
I would. I think that might. Yeah, that moment in history, man. I can't. I was just watching footage of that the other day. I watched Rod Howard's 8 Days a Week.
Oh, okay.
And have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's good. It's entirely dedicated to the touring years.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It ignores everything after they stop touring.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
So it's
which is amazing how early they. I was reading a bit of history about them. How early they stopped touring effectively before they wrote most of their great albums.
It's their arc of music writing. Yeah, it's around 66 they stopped.
Yeah.
Rubber Soul and Revolver are kind of the last on the road albums, and you can see them moving into studio stuff there. Definitely.
Yeah. They get a bit more obscure, but more the breadth of their musical skill and their songwriting, and people like George coming a bit more to the fore and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's great.
Oh, George became an amazing songwriter. Yeah, some of my very favorite Beatles stuff was written by Harrison, but Rubber Soul is my favorite Beatles album because it existed that bridge.
Yeah.
I love it because I do think a lot of their early stuff, it's pleasant and it's fun, but it was also better than everything else around, or almost everything else around it, and very original and new. That they were still experimenting even then.
Yeah.
A lot of what we would think about as modern day rock, not just rock and roll, but rock, was kind of pioneered in that area. With them taking things from some of the 50s era American rock and blues musicians and reworking it in a new way.
Oh, and it's amazing how they were, particularly Paul and John as a combination, but as you say, George, what a combination of great songwriters and great lyric and melody writers, great musicians, fantastic singers, whether it be solo or in harmony. Mm-hmm. Plus a look that sort of became iconic. It was an amazing and potent combination for a band that could produce Twist and Shout to then go and produce A Day in the Life, and you think, how on earth did you make that transition? But yeah, they were obscenely talented people.
What's your favorite word?
I say there are a few weird words like I like to say, like conflate.
Conflate. Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, I like those words that people use infrequently, but that have sort of a slightly more subtle undertones. I was talking to I Skyped with Greg on as part of our Patreon tier, and I told him that they talk about lube with alarming frequency, and he reposted this. I think he liked the term of phrase alarming frequency.
They do talk about that a lot.
I know. I said I felt uncomfortable. The amount they I mean I understand that moisturizing is important, but as I say, I was slightly disturbed.
You're actually you're on Game Over, Greggy. You recorded an episode.
Yeah, I recorded one earlier this week, so it should be. I suspect it'll come out about the same sort of time as this.
Right around the same time, I'm guessing as well.
If you're not already sick of the sound of my voice, please, feel free to go
over and do that.
Go and listen to me yabber on some more.
Excellent. Cake or pie?
Pie.
All right. Well chosen, sir.
I can't eat either very often these days.
Right. Well, yeah, none of us should. But
no, well, true.
But yeah, what's the pie of choice when you do have a chance?
I do like a cherry pie.
Good pick.
I
good
love
cherry
cherries.
pie, man. Good cherry pies. Good cherries in California.
Yeah, in fact, apparently they're just in season at the moment.
They
so
are,
I
yeah.
picked some up yesterday. I love.
How were they? How were they? The ones
Really
you got?
good.
They were good. Okay,
Really good. Yeah. I'm a. You don't get them very often.
It's
The
odd,
growing season apparently or the in season is very short.
Yeah, you travel places just like, wait, I didn't know this was good here. I had no idea California had amazing cherries, or good Lord, avocados here are like they're in a different league. Cherries are that way here. Garlic's really good here. There's a lot of stuff here that's just delicious. When I went to Japan, apples. I was shocked how good Japanese apples are.
Yeah, in fact, we have a Japan center in London that sells Japanese food. They have persimmon.
Oh, Japanese persimmons are amazing.
Oh my, that is the most wondrous fruit. And
although actually wild persimmons in the American Southeast also very good.
Oh really?
Yes, they're pretty. We used to make pie out of them.
Oh, I've never had a persimmon pie. That would be are they called nasi pears, which are like a very sweet kind of pear apple type of. I mean, yeah,
yummy.
These, yeah.
I'm hungry again. I've already gained weight recently. I don't need to be talking about food so much.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Coming to the States for 8 weeks is a difficult.
Don't eat here.
Yeah,
we're terrible.
Oh, the food's excellent. That's the problem. Yeah, there's a lot of very unhealthy but very good stuff.
That's them. So I want to come home with you. Can I go be British now?
Yeah, of course you can.
For a while. Okay,
You'd fit in wonderfully well.
Oh, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So
definitely.
All right, we'll have to work that out sometime.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm sure
I be an accountant. I'm not good at math, so probably not.
I mean, I'm not that great at maths.
Yeah, but you're still an accountant.
Well, yeah.
You said you were good at it earlier. You're just being humble.
Yeah.
Now. I know how to operate VisiCalc still. I doubt that helps anymore.
I think there's an opportunity to grow our. We could become a great technology center.
There we go.
You could lead it.
I'm going to be a technologist.
That's technologist.
I'm going to be a future technologist. I think it was Jeremy Parrish who said the vice president of expanding possibilities and horizons, or maybe that was James Milkey. I want that to be I think it was James Milkey who said vice president of expanding possibilities and horizons.
I like that.
I think I want that one.
That's catchy.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You need a very big business card though.
Milky's a funny dude. All right. So anyway, there we go there. At least it's on podcast.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for watching, listening. Once again, Nick Ray, Robert Nieder, thank you for everything. Thanks to you, Paul, for what you've done for the show.
My pleasure.
Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Until next time, I don't have a catchy phrase to sign off with.